There is no single or clear definition for corruption. This is due to the fact that corruption exists in various forms and involve different participants. Corruption comes from the Latin word corrumpere, which means to mar, to bribe, or to destroy. Today on the Daily Trend Show, we'll be talking about understanding and dealing with corruption. We'll be talking about what corruption is, the differences between bribery and corruption, the types of corruption, the causes of corruption, the effects of corruption, and the corrective measures of corruption. Corruption is such a broad topic that I cannot be dealing with alone. For that matter, I have two of my lovely friends here with me to help me dissect the topic.
Hello, Maud. So I think to kick things off, we can start with a general definition of what corruption is. Yeah. So when you ask a layman, what is corruption? Firstly, his mind goes to politics, and he will tell you it is the abuse of power for selfish gain. And that already gives us the idea of something being destroyed. Yes. So when you come to Ghana, there's a popular phrase you hear, "Enunebu o maino." That is telling you that it's corruption that is destroying our country.
Yes.
So already corruption is bringing to mind the idea of something being destroyed.
Okay. To add to what you just said, when we talk of corruption, the World Bank, that is 1997, defined corruption as a means of misusing public office for personal gain. The act of corruption involves illegal or dishonest behavior of both political and civil servants in order to dissect government assets to their own pocket that will favor them and their family members.
Okay. I want us to take this scenario, okay? You're driving and then you forget your driving license at home, okay? And the police stops you. Normally when the police stop you and you don't have your driving license, they have to arrest you or something, right? But then today is a lucky day. So the police stops you and then he doesn't arrest you. He lets you go. And from your own kindness, you know, you're so kind. So you give the police some, money to thank him for his kindness. What is that?
Well, I think we cannot call that bribery.
Okay.
Because, as we know, bribery is giving or receiving to influence a decision. Okay. And here's the case. There is no influence on the policeman's decision. He lets you go on his will. And you decide to appreciate him for it. That can't be called bribery.
Is the policeman supposed to take the money?
No, to me, I would say an act of bribery, because already the policeman has an intention in mind. The person is not having driving license. As a police officer, you're supposed to detain the person there to go and bring it, or you put the person to court. Because the driving license permits someone to drive on the road. Yeah, so the act of accepting the offer is what? Bribe. So in that case, both the police officer and the driver are corrupt.
So can we have a clear-cut definition of what bribery is? Is it possible to have that?
Okay, let me give you a clear-cut definition of what bribery is. Bribery is giving or receiving an unearned money to influence someone's behavior.
Okay, so let's look at this definition well.
Yeah.
Giving or receiving unearned money. Can we say the policeman took unearned money? Check. Yes, we can. Can we say it influenced his decision?
No.
Then we can't classify it as bribery.
No, to me, the police officer and then the driver, we all know that the police on the road to check proper things on the road. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the moment you met a police on the road and you try to give something, it's already a way of bribing. There is an intention over there that you are bribing the police officer, which is known to you as well. So it's a bribe. We can't take it just a normal way of offering. No, the policeman does not have any authority or the right to take a money from the driver at that time. If you know that it's a favor, you should let you go. Oh, fine. I allow you to go today. Next time when I come, make sure that you come with your driving license as you are driving.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here. Okay. Let me play devil's advocate here. For something to be called bribery, it has to check two boxes. Okay. For something to be called bribery, it has to check two boxes. And here's the case, this scenario only checks one. It checks the box of what? Unearned money, unearned reward. Now there's one thing it's supposed to check again. That is influence decision. does it influence the policeman's decision?
No.
His decision is already taken. I have let you go. And then you, out of your own, let's call it kindness.
Benevolence.
I don't know whether it's kindness, but let's call it kindness. You decide to give him something in appreciation. Thank you for letting me go. Probably you are in a hurry going somewhere and you know how much worse things could have been for you. And then to say thank you for sparing me, you just give him a little token. It is not bribery because it doesn't influence the man's decision.
Okay.
What we can say, we can call it an act of corruption. Because in government service, you are not supposed to take gifts for the service you render.
No.
You are not supposed to. So it's a moral gray area. We can't give it a clear-cut name.
No, that unless you educate me more by giving me the details or difference between corruption and bribery.
Okay, so bribery is only a form of corruption, okay? But then corruption includes many other dishonest practices such as embezzlement, fraud, collusion, or nepotism. Yeah.
You know, the problem here is the ordinary person confuses bribery and corruption.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. The etymology itself is giving the idea that corrompere,
Yes.
it translates as bribe.
Bribe.
Yeah, so it is already given us the wrong idea that bribes can be corruption. Let us disillusionize ourselves from that idea because corruption is not bribery.
Mm-hmm.
I think to settle this, we can say corruption is a mother, bribery is one of its children.
Yes.
Because bribery is just a little part of what corruption entails. Okay, and we have said it here that bribery is giving, receiving an end reward to influence a decision.
Oh, okay.
So here we are seeing clearly that the policeman's decision is not influenced by the money.
His decision was
he took.
made before the money was given.
Then again, he, knowing that he's in public service, government service, is not supposed to take a reward for the work he is doing. So there we can call it an act of corruption. It's a moral gray area. We can't call it bribery.
How about we take another scenario? You go to a restaurant, you go to eat, your waiter comes to serve you, and after everything, you tip him or her.
Well, that's just proper behavior.
No, it's just a way of appreciating the kind work that they have rendered to you.
So what's the difference between that scenario and the police and driver scenario?
You know, in fact, we can't even compare it.
Okay.
It is, let me call it impossible to make that comparison. You know a valet. You know what the valet does?
Yeah.
The valet takes your car and parks it properly for you. Mm-hmm. Now, if you take the work of the valet, you can compare it to the work of the waiter.
Okay.
You have done a good job. You could have done a much worse job. So for the good job you've done, I am saying thank you. Keep it up. So I would like to patronize your service all the time.
In the case of the police, he didn't even do the good job.
Exactly. His service is not even rendered.
Okay.
Because your service to the nation is stopping people who are driving illegally, stopping people who are driving recklessly. Okay. This driver is driving illegally. He doesn't have a permit to prove. He says he has a license. What is there to show? Nothing. Nothing shows that he has a permit to drive. This is why I like Francophone countries. Certain things like this can't pass there. Because if you don't have your license, you can't be on the road. You can be on the road if you're on a bicycle. No one has a problem with you. But to ride a motorcycle, to drive a car, you need your license. So the policeman has failed his service and he's taking money for it. That is corrupt. But it's not a bribe.
Okay.
I want us to look at the keywords and the differences between the bribery and corruption that we saw. Okay. So we mentioned collusion. We mentioned embezzlement. We mentioned nepotism and fraud too. So collusion is a secret agreement between two or more organizations formed with the aim of gaining illegal mutual benefits. Okay. So like two or more organizations coming together to make a corrupt act, to do a corrupt act again.
That is a big part of political corruption these days because, corruption nowadays it's well organized. It's not like one person going out to do his own business. So seeking help from other organizations, not just other people, organizations. So you are getting the picture. The thing is really well planned. People sit down to think of what to do to be able to steal from the state, let's call it, or whichever organization they are working under, to help themselves. So collusion is actually a very big part of what corruption has become these days.
Okay.
So that means that the act of nepotism is also a factor under corruption.
Yeah.
Nepotism is a form of what? Showing favor to family and friends in order to get them rich. So that we can classify it also under what? A factor that leads to corruption.
Like, for example, in Ghana, we call the present government what? Family and friends.
Family and friends. My God.
Because you realize that most of the people in power, the ministers are
relatives.
So,
yeah. And we talk also about embezzlement.
Yeah.
Embezzlement is usually used in replacement of misappropriation.
Okay.
But what makes the difference between embezzlement and misappropriation is when you take misappropriation, for instance. Say you are in a teaching sector and you're supposed to buy markers and you buy chalks instead. You've misappropriated the funds,
yes,
but it still benefits the
school.
institution you are working with. But when you take embezzlement, you take the funds from that institution and use it elsewhere. It's also misappropriation,
for your
all right?
personal gains.
Yes,
Personal gain, yeah.
but it is not benefiting the institution anymore.
Yes.
So that is what clearly strikes the difference between the misappropriation and the embezzlement.
Okay, we also looked at fraud, and we said that it is an act where a person cheats to gain money or his
Through
personal
illegal
goals.
means, because it's
Okay.
not illegal way of doing things
Yes.
as well.
So take the instance of money going from, say, the minister to a contractor, and the contractor colludes with one of the middlemen along the way, and instead of say 100,000 is 100,000, let's call it dollars, is for the project, then they collude and say it's all 120,000. That is some fraud, because
Yeah.
you know what exactly you're supposed to take, and then, well, you decide to play it fast and lose. Get a
Students
little
do that
extra.
to our parents.
As corruption is at every sector.
Yeah,
Marriages,
everywhere.
churches, classrooms, it is everywhere.
I am telling you,
Yeah.
it's
So it is matter of we being ourselves, being faithful, so that we can fight corruption out of the country.
absolutely. So now I think we can roll over to what few types of corruption we identify, because we've covered much of the ground. I think now the viewers are really sensitized to what corruption entails. So now we can move to what types exist.
Types of corruption.
Talking about the type of corruptions, there are several types. We'll just look at few this morning. The first one I would say is petty corruption. Yeah, petty corruption. Those normally involved in petty corruption are decent and honest people who take small bribes from friends and other public officials just to keep themselves going. It's because of the salary that they receive is very low.
Yeah.
People work over hours, then the salary that they take at the end of the month is very small. So
That's a
because they don't have enough to support themselves and their family, their education and other things, they take small bribes from people. They call it petty corruption.
No, that is unfortunate. I think
And this kind of corruption happens in police stations, registration offices,
Even
and
in the
land testing
hospitals.
offices. Exactly, yeah. So you go to a place, something happened between you and a police officer. You know that they're going to jail you. Quickly, you go and see the police officer. Then you tip something small to make the case somehow so that you let you go free. It's an act of corruption.
and it's small things like this put together that will give us systemic corruption. When we talk about systemic corruption, okay, we can talk about organized crime,
Yeah.
because over there it is an organization here putting out very complex systems. Nowadays movies are really doing well to bring out pertinent topics in society. You take a movie like Blind Spot. That movie gives a detailed organization, a whole system put in place, from the president all the way down to the last cog in place. And they work it's a well-oiled machine. Everything is moving so smoothly. Systems, organizations, working in the government, they look like they are carrying out everyday activities, but wow, how much they are stealing from the nation, how much things they are putting wrong in the nation.
Yeah.
It will surprise you. Systemic corruption it's a big deal. It's very challenging for nations.
And then there is also grand corruption, which happens in the government. Okay, so it happens in the government, and it is the kind of corruption that is done to influence decision making at the level of the government. Yes.
Yeah. To add to what we just said about the systemic corruption, it most happens at the country where the leader is authoritarian leadership.
I believe so.
Yeah, exactly. Because he has whatever he says is final. So people find ways that, okay, if this is the case, let us do something to put something in our own pocket.
Okay.
So this has been the favorite show on New World TV. This morning we are talking of corruption, definition, etymology, and the types. We'll be back just after a short break. As it is said that there is no smoke without fire, this morning we are looking at corruption. But we can't just look at corruption just like that. We have to know what causes corruption, effect that it has on individuals in a country, and its solutions. So on this segment, we'll continue to look at some of the causes of corruption within our family, churches, the country at large.
Okay.
Let's kick things off with greed.
The greed.
Greed.
Okay.
It is the most basic cause of corruption you can think of. Because why should you steal from the state? The state you are working for is what is taking care of your nation. It's what's taking care of your people.
And it's even paying you large sums of money.
And then again, you want to steal. So here we can even talk about this ministerial corruption. Because over there, they take a lot of money to work.
Yes, and a lot of allowances.
And still find reason to steal from the state. I mean, that's just a problem of greed.
Yeah.
It's not normal. I don't know if you agree, but this is it's a very big deal.
Yeah, and then there's also the issue of low salary. The government is not paying the people enough. So any small means that they can get to get extra money, they'll go for it. Because the government is not paying them good money to take care of themselves and their family.
Okay. To me, I can also say that the most causes of this corruption due to low level of education.
Okay.
Well, it is the duty of the National Service Commission and other stakeholders to educate the public about the consequences of what corruption, because people just misuse government property into their own asset. They don't know that at the end it will affect what the country and the next generation. So, talking about corruption, education must play major role in education.
People don't know that.
Televisions are there, radios, newspapers are there to educate people about consequences of corruption.
Then there's also the low press freedom. The
Exactly.
freedom, the press is not given the freedom that
to
is
access
needed,
information, to expose
that they need.
corrupt people in the society.
Yeah.
It is true.
I think we need to talk about the education more. See, it can be talked about in two grand ways. So, firstly, we can mention the people in office themselves not being educated enough to see the effects of what they are doing.
Okay.
Because, let's face it, a lot of the people who are in office, they don't merit that place. Let's face that fact. They don't merit the fact of being in that place.
Yeah.
But they are there somehow. We don't know how, but they are there. And they do things in dubious ways to enrich themselves. And probably they do that because they don't know what effect it has on the nation.
You sure they do not?
Well, even if they do, but if you take someone who is not educated enough to see that, this thing I'm doing, it has a chain effect.
Yeah.
I move this, that moves that, and it's a long process all the way down.
Or even you can say that people are not even sensitive enough.
Exactly.
They know, but then they don't care.
Yeah. Some people are not patriotic to themselves and their country.
Exactly.
Yeah, because patriotism to work, you love for a country. You have to put that first, not because of the work you do. You are working for the country. At the end of it, at the end of the month, they will pay you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you have to put the country's aims first before yours, so that.
And then
the
second thing you can say about the education is that the people who are working with that person do not know enough. The people who are working with the people in office do not know enough. So he plays fast and loose. He plays smart on them. and he is able to channel a lot of resources. And sometimes they even help him without knowing because they don't know what is happening. Exactly. If it is that all the people working in that unit had an equal level of education, and you are trying to play fast and loose, there's no way that will pass, because the moment you start, someone picks on the line, and then is able to blow a whistle on you.
It's true.
Okay.
And I also think that the reason why corruption is now so common is that when you're caught being corrupt, you are not punished. Or even if you are punished,
it's not steep enough.
It's not any serious punishment that would deter other people not to act corrupt. So.
Because I'm glad that we have certain offices now coming up to help with curbing corruption, like the office of the special prosecutor in Ghana. And EOCO, Economic and Organized Crime Office. It's been in Ghana for quite a while, but it seems their work is kind of limited. They do not have the independence, let's say, so to speak. They do not have the independence they need to tackle things head on. So I'm really glad the special prosecutor is now on board, because he is an independent body. Well, but if he has collaborators.
The special prosecutor, he's a human being.
Absolutely.
He can also be a corrupt person as well.
He can.
That is why
there must be more measures must put in place.
That's why for those kind of roles, people who are not biased are people who occupy such positions.
No, it's difficult to tell who is biased or who is not.
It's true.
It's a troubling
because
thing.
4 years ago, you think someone is not biased. The next 4 years is campaigning for a political party.
What is to say that I sitting here I'm not corrupt? There's nothing that is a clear-cut pointer. It's a leap of faith, and it just happens that sometimes we put our faith in wrong people.
Now we just look at the causes. So now let's try to look at what are some of the effects that corruption has on individual. And this aspect, I want us to put it in the three main category, looking at the economic life, social life, and then the political life of corruption.
Okay, so taking the economic aspect, we can talk about misuse of public expenditure. And that misuse of public expenditure is causing factors, the sectors that need certain amounts to work, it's causing them to lack very badly. Take examples like big projects. National Cathedral, for instance. It is a project that demanded a lot. A lot. And here we have schools under trees.
And they're even asking Ghanaians to contribute in the building of...
But why would you even ask for that?
To build
because Ghanaians' children are going to school and they lie on their belly to write. A documentary I watched from the North. It was sad.
It's very, very sad.
They were in an uncompleted structure with thatched roofs, and they are on their belly, writing on the floor, not even on a slate, on the floor. And we go to hospitals, and a pregnant woman is lying on two adjacent plastic chairs. No hospital beds. And we leave that and put money into some big project.
For what?
So you see that the misuse of public expenditure is one of the big spin-offs that corruption is causing.
I mean, we also have the political effect, so we can say that it spreads mistrust in the rule of law and the state institutions. So if the government is if there are corrupt cases in the country, you say that the government is corrupt, so there is no way you are going to trust the system. People would like to find other means of doing their way than going through the right processes because the country is corrupt, the government is corrupt.
You know why people burn thieves alive these days? Because they don't trust the police.
That is the national security officers.
We don't trust the police.
If the country is full much of corruption, it gives way to other neighboring countries to import things in our country anyhow, and that will let the economy very, very low. And we'll run after other countries looking for helps there and there, which is very bad. So those are some of the effects that it has on politics as well.
I personally think that this nepotism as a branch of corruption, it is really making our workforce incompetent. So you enter the political structure, and high offices are run by people who do not have the head for it. They don't have any skill set to run that office. They do not have any integrity to be in that place. But hey, it so happens that I know somebody. When I place my application in, there's somebody who can check it for me and then push me into some office where there's a lot of money coming. After all, we are friends. Whatever benefits come for it, we will share. So it is depriving the right people who are in better placed positions to be in that office, causing them to be unemployed, and then it is leaving place for the bad heads, the bad nuts, to rather run office for us.
Globally, looking at corruption on effect on individuals as well can also lead to what? Loss of job.
Absolutely.
Because if you are corrupt, you are being caught, you can lose your job. Then you become miserable on the road, moving about and all those things.
If the rules are working.
The rules must work in order to check those things out of the system so that it should not be like people are doing it, so let me also go and do it. No. If you do it, you are found culpable, you must be punished and dealt with severely.
We are losing our social structure too. And societal classes are being pitted against each other. It is nobody's fault that someone is rich, someone is middle income, and someone is poor. It's nobody's fault. I think even this middle income thing is just a cover we used to give to people so they don't think they are poor. Because I believe that the societal class is the rich and the poor. It's nobody's fault. Some are rich, some are poor. Let's call that life. But now they are being pitted against each other. So the poor man goes to steal from the rich. And the rich abuses his power and incarcerates the poor anyhow. It's nobody's fault that there's this stratification of society. But corruption is making things much more difficult because somebody is up there, high office, earns a big salary, gets good allowances, and still finds reason to steal.
For what?
The poor person sitting at home sees this. What is his reaction? He's going to find a way to react and get something back for himself. So you see, take an example like Robin Hood. I like that cartoon so much because Robin Hood is, let's call him a freedom fighter. He takes the interest of the poor, steals from the rich to give back to the poor. Because the money is theirs actually.
So
taxpayers' money. It goes to government, and then government officials misappropriate it. So those
take
people
the law into our own hands.
Take the law. Everything reflects. It's a chain. Everything that is happening affects something else, and it just keeps going around. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, let's look at the corrective measures because I think that we have really talked about the effects.
Absolutely.
The correction measures, the first and foremost must be creating awareness.
Check.
And that is a very role that each and everyone must put up to play. The government supposed to play a major role in that. The media supposed to play a major role in that. It's a time that we educate people, talk to them about the consequences that corruption has on an individual and the nation at large. Because people don't care. It is public sector, it's not my father's property. So let me use it anyhow. But if you educate them, no, this thing can be used. When it's well used, the benefit comes to the country. They can use it to build schools, hospitals, and other social amenities that we need in the country. I hope people will work with pure heart that they will never do any corrupt act in their offices. They will never take what is belongs to the government into their own personal pocket. Are you getting it? So the NCC, churches, schools, from the basics to the high level, must know about consequences of what? Corruption.
So I believe, following from what you just said, we can talk about the fusion of the corruption education into our curriculum. I think we've been doing a good enough job in our society, Ghanaian society, to make that happen, because right from primary school, when you are learning social studies,
religious and moral education,
you are being taught about what corruption entails. You are being taught about how to prevent it. It's a good thing that is already happening, but I think we can invest more into it, let it grow a little bit.
And for me, I'm like, why don't you just pay people the money they deserve? Pay people rightly, and then they would not act corrupt. They would not go back doors and be taking money that they are not supposed to take. So, governments, please pay us what we deserve.
As we can see now, what happens in Ghana, public workers' salary increased by only 4%. But other workers in the parliament, they are taking more than that.
Right.
So that is pushing people to what? To the act of corruption. So as you've said it is true that the government have to do something about the workers' salary so that when they go to work, they'll feel comfortable and work, so that the act of corruption will be far from us.
In any case, I believe that even if you are paying somebody well, if they are greedy, they still find a way to be corrupt. So viewers, I hope you've learned a lot. We've attempted to bring certain clarities between the difference between bribery and corruption. We've given you a little idea of what types of corruption you can have, and we've also attempted to delve into the causes, effects, and preventive measures of this demon eating into our society that we call corruption. So this is the end of another exciting episode of the Daily Trend on New World TV Info English. Don't forget to get interactive with us on Facebook at the Daily Trend TDT, and on YouTube at the Daily Trend New World TV, the Daily Trend playlist. This has been your favorite show. We will come your way. See you next time.